Hello there, welcome to another interesting episode of the interview. Today, I'm so delighted to have the Reverend Yunusa Sabo Nmadu, who is the General Secretary of the Evangelical Church, Winning All, also known as ECWA. He is also the CEO and President of the Christian Solidarity Worldwide Nigeria, which is an NGO that focuses on promoting peace and religious advocacy and social engagements. Reverend Madu does a lot of things that time may not permit me to, start enumerating on this platform. But as we proceed with the discussion, you'll get to know more about him in case you don't know him yet. So I want to welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for joining me on this platform this wonderful day.
Thank you, Seth, for having me on your platform.
Thank you so much, sir. If you can just come a little bit closer to your computer so that your picture will be bolder, that would be great. That looks great, sir. All right. So as I always do, I encourage you to actively participate and contribute. If you have any specific questions that you want Reverend Madu to answer, to address, please feel free to direct those questions, send those questions through the comments. And also remember to share this video in case you are watching on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube. Just in case you prefer YouTube, you can follow us, follow this discussion on YouTube. So without further ado, I want us to start by talking about the things that are happening in Nigeria. It is no longer news that Nigeria for the past couple of years has seen a lot of upheavals and crises and all kinds of things that can be described to some extent as religious persecution. A lot of Christians, especially in northern Nigeria, have been killed because of religious extremisms and fundamentalism and violence. I want you to talk to us as a leader of the church in such a respected denomination, ECWA. What do you think the church has been doing? And more specifically, several Christians have been talking about, the role of the church. There have been all kinds of expressions that the church is not doing well. Will you say the church has been doing enough in addressing some of the things that are happening in Nigeria?
Well, again, thank you very much, Seth. Enough will be relative, really. And like you will agree with me, the more the issues we deal with, the more the deficit in what the church is doing. Oversimplified, the more you think you are catching up with solving the problems, the more the problems keep running away from you. But on the whole, I think that the church, given its position in Nigeria, talking about the church in Nigeria now, not just a denomination in general, I would say that the church has been doing its bit within the ambit of what is allowable for the church to do in trying to mitigate the problems that the church is going through in terms of its social responsibilities and spiritual responsibility. The church primarily is set up to be the salt of the world and the light of the world. In that sense, the church has been doing its bit and also getting involved in trying to mitigate the effect of persecution on its members. Now, coming to ECWA, to be specific, ECWA has been around for over 100 years now. If you take it from the days of its father, that's the SIM, you could say we've been around for like 128 or 129 years or thereabout. And ECWA has been involved in trying to give the total gospel to the total man. And what do I mean by this? We don't just preach the word, but we also try to give education. We try to get involved in the area of health provision of health facilities, education from nursery to tertiary. We have one of the best private universities, I tell you, in the country, the Bingham University. And recently, our school, the School of Nursing in Egbe, was listed as one of the best 10 School of Nursing that you can find in the whole of Nigeria. And indeed, on that list of 10, the School of Nursing Egbe was number 1. So, yeah, so in the area of education, we are doing well. In the area of the provision of health, healthcare facilities, we are doing well. Recently, we launched our health insurance program so that our members, and indeed with time, other people, Christians to be specific, can have access to affordable health care, within the income in which each person, earns. Now, apart from that, too, the EMS of ECWA is doing a lot in trying to evangelize both the rural and the urban areas of Nigeria. And we do also have organizations like the Relief Foundation of ECWA that is trying to to provide a lot of succor to women and children in order to mitigate the effect of persecution and even the economic hardship of the country. So, yeah, we're also involved in the financial institutions in order to bring sanity to the financial institution as we play our part as a church. So we do operate a bank, we operate fund management, and so on. So, yeah, so many things. We are involved in the pharmaceuticals and so on. Which I'm sure time will not permit us to list all the things that we're involved in. So all of these things go side by side with the preaching of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, so that, like I said, we can provide the total gospel to the total man.
So thank you so much for that response. I want to piggyback on two important things that you said, especially talking about ECWA. I have been privileged to be an ECWA pastor at the local level, and some of the things that we usually hear, especially from members that probably don't get up to you up there. I have the privilege to ask you this, since this is frank conversation. I think I should ask you about this, and I believe a lot of ECWA members will be watching this and they will be interested to know. Talking about Bingham University that you mentioned, that is doing really well. One of the questions that you always hear, especially from ECWA members about Bingham University, is the fact that the ordinary member of ECWA cannot afford to go to Bingham University. And over the years, I don't know whether it has stopped, but there have been all kinds of levies on ECWA churches and what have you to, contribute toward the establishment and even the running of Bingham University. What will you say to an ordinary ECWA member listening to this about getting admission, not just getting admission, but also the affordability of going to Bingham University?
Well, Seth, on a lighter mood, when you ask frank questions as ECWA pastor, so you'll be ready for, to receive your query because you are talking to the chief administrator of ECWA. Well, like I said, that's on a lighter mood. But frank questions will demand frank answers. My first reaction to the question is that no matter what we do, and no matter how much we want to provide education in Bingham for the ordinary person, not all ECWA members will ever get to go to Bingham University. I mean, not all ECWA members' children will ever get to go to Bingham University. Just like not every child will ever make it to university, because everybody has his track where God has destined him to be. Having said that, I can tell you today, good authority that Bingham University, as a private institution, is the cheapest private institution today, or university, tertiary institution, talking about university in Nigeria. For instance, you can't compare the the fees that the medical student pay in Bingham University with a lot, if not all, of all the private universities that offer the same course. Now, the problem, the mistake that people make, or the misconception, is that they think that Bingham University is like someone who is called into mission. The lecturers and those who work in Bingham University, by the law that establishes it, and going by the regulatory body, that is the Nigerian University Commission, there is a minimum to which you must be able to fund the university in terms of the payment of lecturers. If you don't pay professors what they should earn, if you don't pay lecturers what they should earn, they will go elsewhere and find another job. And so what you are going to have in the school, or the education you are going to be getting from the school, will be quite substandard because you don't have qualified lecturers. So, I mean, we cannot debate this, that we need good hands, and if we need good hands, then we need to pay them commiserately with what their salary or what their take home should be. And like you said, you are an ECWA pastor. I'm sure when you were back here in Nigeria, there are months that you probably will go without salary, or sometimes even you will even enter the new year and forget about the salaries of the old months in the old year that you have not received, and trust God to keep you. But you know, your calling and the ones that work in Bingham University is quite different. And so you must pay them what they need to be paid. Not just that, there is also what is demanded of us in terms of funding and things that needed to be provided for the university by the regulatory bodies. If we don't, the courses will never be accredited. So university education is very, very expensive. I can tell you expressly that ECWA as a church does not make 1 naira profit from Bingham University or any of our educational institutions. They have been established in order to help the ordinary person, one, to get some of those hard-to-get courses that they will never be able to get in the public universities again, because of religious segregation, marginalization, and discrimination in our country. So students who are qualified to read medicine in Bingham University, as our carriage capacity allows, they get into the course of their choices. So talking again about levy, I'm not aware that we have levied members concerning Bingham University. Have we collected offerings? Yes. But again, it's good to say this very publicly, that in most cases, the average of the offerings that are collected from our churches every year on yearly basis is an average of 100 million naira. Now, said 100 million naira, it's not enough to pay 1 month's salary of the workforce of Bingham University. So to run Bingham University every year, you need nothing less than 1 billion naira. So where do we get that from in order to keep the school alive and afloat? We have told people that Bingham University is just beginning, and that as the school increases in infrastructure, we will be able to increase the carriage capacity of the school. And as that happens, the fees will continue to go down, and members will also be able to get some relief. That has begun already. As an ECWA member, you get 10% waiver for school fees for all courses, just any member. As an ECWA pastor, you get 20% waiver for all courses. And then there's also the scholarship that is called the Indigent Scholarship, which is the waiver of 40% of tuition fee for those who are identified and we can prove that they are indigent students. And every year we have room for over 900 students, because we have about like 90 districts, and each district can give names of 10 indigent, not indigent, yes, students, those that are struggling. So it can only get better. It wasn't this good 2-3 years ago, but we have begun what we promised. And like I said, it can only get better. So I'll just call on people to be patient and to know that bottom line is that university education is extremely expensive.
You also mentioned the issue of the ECWA pastor. Sometimes some ECWA pastors go without salary. And I know this is a little bit quote unquote controversial in the ECWA setting, where you find some ECWA pastors, they never think about salary because they are in churches that are doing well. But you also have other pastors that are literally living by faith, so to speak. It doesn't mean that the other people are not living by faith, but you also have these pastors that, based on the economic situation of the church they are pastoring, and that determines to some extent their livelihood. Will you want to comment on that? Why has ECWA not been able to have some kind of centralized payment in system in which all ECWA pastors just work, whether they're in strong churches or so-called weaker churches, they are guaranteed of their salaries?
Well, centralized payment is something that we've tried to deal with over the years, administrations after administrations in ECWA. So what we are doing now is to see that our districts, first of all, try to centralize their salaries, because this is where the workforce of the pastors is. We don't employ pastors at the headquarters. All pastors are employed at the district. And if you don't control employment, it will be difficult to put on your shoulder the responsibility of the payment of the workforce that you did not employ. So there's so many things that need to be considered. Our way of funding the church is bottom up. In other words, we get some percentage that comes to the district from the local assembly, and some of it comes to the headquarters to be able to run the headquarters and the institutions that ECWA runs. So it's not all that is collected at the local church that comes to the headquarters. In some churches, that's what happens. They only operate impress. And so such churches are able to centrally pay their pastors from the headquarters. But I want you to understand that we are dealing with a workforce of over 11 to 12,000 workers in ECWA. And like I said, again, I repeat that if you are not responsible for the employment, it's difficult then to be responsible for their payment. But recently, we are trying to see, cracking our brains to see what can be done so that pastors can begin to get something to help their families as of when due, whether you are in a weak church or you are in a church that is able. That's going to take some time, but we are slowly getting there, and it is beginning by encouraging the districts to centralize their payment, because when the districts centralize their payment, then centralization at the top becomes very easy, to accomplish.
And talking about the church members, now I'm talking generally, not just about ECWA, but there is this feeling, general feeling in Nigeria. I know generalizations are not usually accurate representations, but there seems to be this permutation on the ear from members of different churches that the pastors are lording it over their members. When you find, especially given the economic situation in Nigeria, you find pastors living in luxury and members are suffering. And on the most part, it looks like pastors don't care. All they care is about building their own dynasties, driving on the most, the latest cars, living in mansions and flying and traveling all over the world. And the average member of the church is suffering. I want you to comment on that generally about the state of the church and the feelings of members regarding this, and also, if you want, specifically about ECWA.
Well, I can only speak for the church that I work, and this is ECWA, and the description you just gave does not fit the ECWA pastor at all. Because if you put that together, put that side by side with your first question, the question I just responded to before this one, the previous one, you will agree with me that then it becomes a paradox if what you just said is true about the ECWA pastor. The ECWA pastor is a struggling servant of the Lord. But that does not mean that pastors shouldn't live well. But again, pastors should not strive to live well at the expense of their members. Oversimplified, pastors should not live well because they are impoverishing their members. This is not right. The principle, for me, I believe that the principle of the first church at its embryonic stage in Acts of Apostles chapter 2, from verse 41 to 47 should be the principle of the church, even in our times, where people those who have been so blessed in the church must not see what God has given to them as just for them and their families, but that God has so blessed them so that they can be a channel of blessings to others. So if God blesses members of the church, they should be a channel of blessing to other members and even their pastors, because Scripture says that, teachers are worthy of their double honor. Again, if God blesses a pastor, he should also be honest enough to also be a channel of blessing to others. There are such complaints from many people, especially in the media. But again, because I am not in those churches, I cannot speak for them. I can only say, like you asked the question generally, that we should go back to the principle of the first church in trying to provide for each member of the church so that there is no one that goes to bed hungry. That won't be Christian if that happens.
But does it give you any concerns, though, especially with the way some of this, it may not be generally applicable to ECWA, but are you concerned about the state of the church when it comes to some of these things that you hear every now and then about, pastors competing on flying jets, private jets, and which is a paradox, you find a lot of suffering among Nigerian Christians, and you also see this flamboyance of pastors all over the place.
Well, the condition of the church at every generation, you will always find a cause for concern. I believe that we are not called to a life of affluence. We are called to the life of contentment. And if we are called to a life of contentment, whatever we acquire for the ministry should be because it is needed for the ministry. In years past, a pastor wouldn't ride a bicycle. But today, pastors ride cars. And so it would be wrong to say that if God blesses a church because there is a need to fly private jets, it's not the flying of private jets that is sinful, but it is the spirit of unhealthy competition. And also the fact that people are living above their means just so that they can measure up. Or people are acquiring things that are in the category of want, not need. This is what we must be careful with. And this is what I am concerned about as a minister of the gospel, that whatever we acquire or whatever we strive to have should be to enhance the propagation of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, because this is our calling. Anything more than that will be out of line. And I believe that we must always watch our intentions, especially as men of God, and our actions, because by those we will be judged.
Thank you so much. Very, very profound responses. I want us to talk about the situation, the socio-political situation of Nigeria. I know you have been actively involved in the pursuit of peace and solidarity. I want us to talk a little bit about your organization, the Christian Solidarity Worldwide Nigeria, which is engaged in promoting peace and also religious advocacy for the persecuted and the marginalized, and social engagements and also social provisions. Talk to me a little bit about the state of the country. When you think about the state of Nigeria, what comes to mind?
That we are sliding towards a failed state. When we used to have a government, there was hope, but now we can only hope that, God will intervene very soon before we all fall apart. The state of the nation is very, very precarious. The people in Nigeria, whether you are from the south or from the north, now whether you are of the Islamic faith or the Christian faith, I think that the state of insecurity is almost the same all over the country. Although it's louder in some parts of the country, but then the heat is all over the country, and everybody lives in palpable fears because of the state of our nation and the kind of insecurity, the brand of insecurity that we are facing. Now, what is more fearful and worrisome is the fact that it's either our government is helpless and can do nothing, or she is refusing to take up her responsibility, or she's aiding and abetting what is happening in our country. Whichever it is, the commentary is not good. So the people in this country, I have, since I grew up to be aware of myself, I have never seen this level of insecurity in our country, where you are not sure if you slept in your house, whether you will wake up in peace the next morning. You are not sure if you travel in the morning hour or in the afternoon or in the evening. You are not sure if you get to your destination safe and sound. You take your children to school, you are not sure whether they will not come and kidnap and molest them. So everywhere, you go to church, you are not sure. You go to the mosque, you are not sure. So when people begin to live this kind of life of uncertainty, acute uncertainty, then productivity becomes very low. And not just that productivity becomes very low, the morals of the people drops to ground zero. And the fact that the government seems not to be doing anything about it, it's even more worrisome. Because the responsibility of the government, first and foremost, is to protect life and property. But when this is not happening, you and I do know then that the people take their destiny in their hands. And when the citizens begin to take their destiny in their hands, then we are heading towards a confused state, which means that is to your tent, O ye Israel. And that kind of a situation does not portray us as a nation that is sovereign and that can take charge of its own affairs. They may not want to hear this, but Nigeria has really, really nosedived in every aspect, security-wise, economic-wise. Just think of it. And our country is just dying by the day. We just hope that we will survive this government up till 2023.
So talk to me a little bit about your organization, CSWN, and some of the things you do and some of how others can be part of it.
Well, like you said, Christian Solidarity Worldwide is a human rights organization that focuses on freedom of religion or belief. So for us, we believe that as Christians, everyone is free to worship whatever he wants to worship, and to change that at any time that he wants to, either as an individual or in group. Indeed, this is the position of our national constitution, and also the position of the UN Charter on Human Rights. So, talking about Article 18. So as Christians, we believe that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, and that whoever wants to see the Father must go through him. But you must not coerce people to come that way. It must be by persuasion. And if I am so persuaded, having a religion or no religion at all, or no belief at all, if I'm so persuaded to follow your own way of belief or religion, then I should be allowed to freely make that choice, because we believe that God has allowed everyone to make a free choice. So you want to be a Christian, it's your choice. You want to be a Muslim, it's your choice. I'd always said that if God wanted all of us to be Christians, he could have created all of us to be Christians. If he wanted all of us, by fiat to be Muslims, he would have created all of us Muslims. But you see, God has allowed us to make a choice. That does not negate my Christian belief that Jesus is the only way to heaven. But again, like I said, for me to have people to come through that way, it must be by persuasive evangelism. Now, having said that, so Christian Solidarity Worldwide, Nigeria, the Nigerian chapter, tries as much as possible to fight, or if you like, to advocate for the rights of people to believe what they choose to believe, and that nobody should take that right away from them, because it's a first right that God has given to them. So as a God-given right, is an unalienable right that no one should attempt to take away from any individual group of people. So basically, this is what we do. But because we have discovered in our own situation that especially Christians in this part of the world are persecuted in several ways. One is that they are marginalized. Secondly, is that they orchestrate their, to inflict. There is the orchestration of the infliction of pains on the body of Christ by way of taking their lives and their business places by way of destruction. And then of recent, we are dealing with terrorism, banditry, which, as far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing. Banditry and terrorism, as we see in our country, is the same thing. So, as we advocate for people who are being persecuted on the basis of their religious belief, we also try to mitigate, to reduce the suffering by providing some form of aid. I must say here that we are not an exclusively aid organization, but then you cannot close your eyes when you go to see people who you need to take their stories in order to adequately do evidence-based advocacy, and they have no water to drink, they have no food to eat, their houses have been burnt, they have no homes to sleep. You just can't close your eyes and leave them alone. And like James would say, you say, God bless you. We must do something. So we come alongside such people in solidarity and also in empathizing with their situation, not just to sympathize with them, but actions must be taken. So yeah, we also provide some relief to such communities and individuals who ordinarily are lacking in some essentials of life because of their religious belief and adherence.
How can someone participate or benefit from this organization?
Well, it's very simple. Because the tools we use is one, prayer, two, advocacy, three, trying to provide aid for people who are marginalized and persecuted or impoverished. So, it's your choice to either participate by way of prayer, even as we let the public know about what is happening, or by donation through trying to help, trying to help those who need such help. For instance, we are carrying out fundraising now for specifically the people of Southern Kaduna Zangon Kataf local government, where in one of the camps you have over 5,000 people comprising of old and young people and even children, men and women. And there is a humanitarian crisis right now in that place. So they need food, they need drugs, they need where to lay their heads, kind of sleeping things like a blanket and and so on. So this is part of the things that we use our platform in order to escalate the situation of people who are suffering in our land due to their religious belief. So yeah, people can participate in any of these ways that we use as tools to do our work.
And talking about religious persecution, how will you advise Christians aside from prayer? I know prayer is the key, as we always say in the Christian faith. But what should Christians do when it comes to response when their lives are at stake? What is the basic Christian response to these religious extremisms and attacks and the fundamentalists?
Well, like you said, first of all, we must pray. Secondly, we must pray. And thirdly, we must pray. So prayer, prayer, prayer. But having said that, we as Christians are not operating outside the constitution of our nation where we live. And the constitution of our nation allows us to defend ourselves. I will not advocate that Christians should go out in the offensive. In other words, to go out and attack people who have done nothing to them. But again, I will also not advocate that Christians should fold their hands and not protect themselves, not defend themselves if they can, wherever they can, because doing that will be equal to committing suicide. So, having prayed and God have given us wisdom and show us what to do, I will call on Christians without missing words that we must rise up to defend ourselves. We must rise up to defend ourselves because the government has failed to defend us. If we keep folding our hands, then we will keep dying. And the government will keep coming up with lame statements like they are on top of the situation and the perpetrators will be brought to book. We haven't seen any of them brought to book. So we can't fold our hands and die. A genocide is in the making. And with God's given wisdom, we should rise to defend ourselves.
What is your message to ECWA members, especially given the social, political, and economic situation of the country? A lot of people are suffering. A lot of people are living in fear, just as you have alluded in moments ago. What is your message to ECWA members and Christians in general in the midst of all these things?
That we must keep praying for our nation and ourselves, and that there is no situation that lasts forever, and that as we keep holding on to God, even these too shall pass, because every situation has an expiration date. Every problem, has an expiration date. So when this is going to expire, I don't know, but I am confident that God is going to show up, and that will be very soon. Because there is no way the church in Nigeria and the church universal can be praying for the situation that we are facing, and yet God will forever keep silent. No, he will not. God is going to show up very soon. I don't know how soon, but I encourage us to keep holding on to him because this too shall pass.
These two shall pass. And if you have an audience with the president, what will you tell him, the president of Nigeria?
That he should rise to the occasion and do what he was elected to do. If he's not able to, then he should do what is honorable, to resign his position.
Oh. That's a serious one. Well, I want to take this time to thank you so much, sir, for making time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation. It really means a lot, and a lot has been said. We have learned a lot from you, and we continue to pray that the Lord will continue to give you wisdom in your leadership and in your advocacies for Christians in Nigeria. I have not seen any specific questions. And so that being said, once again, thank you so much for taking this time to be part of the interview. And for all of you that followed this interview, thank you so much. Any final words, sir?
Thank you very much, Seth, for having me on your show. And I pray that God will continue to help you. And to all the people of Nigeria, let's keep keeping faith and trust that very soon God will show up again. Just repeating what I said before. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Until I come your way next time with another interesting episode of the interview. Bye for now.